Hey guys, Bobby Hughes here with Heritage Pride Custom Firearms and the Heritage Pride Homestead, and just doing a little video on our composting system that we've recently started back into. I tried my hand at worm composting last year with a specialized worm composter and didn't have very much luck with it. So this is the Worm Factory 360, and it's a pretty cool idea in theory. You basically have, it's just been setting out here because I haven't been using it. It's got this bottom stand or tray, and it's got a little spigot on the front of it, and what happens is your compost juice collects in this little thing, and then you can drain it out through this little sifter into a pan here. Then it's got this little guy that goes on here, and that keeps your worms from falling down in there and not being able to crawl back up into the compost and get stuck down there. And then there's these sections of trays, and these trays are going to make great sifters when I get ready to go through the compost in our new compost system. But basically what you do is you start with one tray, you put your compost in there, and you put your worms in, and then once that one's full, then you add another tray on top of it like this, and the material inside the tray will keep it from sinking down in there so far. But as it sinks, the weight of it kind of packs those worm castings down and keeps them dry, keeps the juices pushed out basically. And then you just continue to add and add and add another tray and add more compost, add another tray. So in theory it's a really great system. And in a basement or in a really cool, dry, dark place, it's a really great system. The problem is that when you're outside with it, unless you're in a really shady spot, it gets really hot. It's like a black tower of heat, and the lid doesn't sit flush on it, like it warps up. So if I had a suggestion for correction on this thing, it would be to revamp the lid somehow so that it actually attaches to the sifter or to the compost trays to keep it from warping up. But in theory it's a great product, and I'm sure it works great in the right environment, but for outside composting it just doesn't work really well if you don't have a good shady spot to keep it all the time. So we used this last year. I attempted worm composting then, and we used it for a while, for probably 3 months or so in the garage, and then once it got warm outside, I moved it outside, and it just, because it would be warmer in the garage but outside so we could get some airflow, and it just, the lid warped up on it and everything in it dried out real bad, and then our worms ran off and left and went to greener pastures. And I think they're still in the area because I have a lot more worms in the ground. I find them a lot more, especially around this area where I had this thing, than I did before. And that could have a lot to do with the chickens and the chicken poop and stuff like that. But anyway, Worm Factory 360, great product, but not for me. So since I didn't have very much luck with the worm composting tower, I thought I would try my hand at a little bit different way of composting. One, we want to keep our composting clean and kind of contained in my little farm area back here. I don't have room really to build a big, composting section, but at the same time we have a lot of compost, quite a bit actually, and we don't put a lot of yard clippings and yard scraps and stuff like that, mainly just stuff from inside the house, leftovers, stuff from leftovers from the garden, just different things. So we have, several times a week I have to bring stuff to the compost. So one thing that we do is I picked up this jar at Hobby Lobby or something, and it's got a sealed lid on it. So it's just a pull-off lid, but it's got a rubber gasket in it, so it makes a nice airtight seal for the canister, and that keeps it from stinking inside the house. And when we clean out the fridge or the cabinets or cook dinner or anything like that, we can just toss our scraps right in this jar. It sits on the counter, and then I can bring it out to the compost when I come out to feed the chickens, or to feed or to check on the plants, or feed Lola, or anything like that. And right now it's just got a bunch of like nuts, and there's some green down in the bottom of it, some banana peels and things. But we cleaned out our cabinets the other night, making room for reorganizing some preps and stuff, and I found a bunch of nuts that I had used to cook with and didn't use all of them, and they've been in there for a really long time, so I threw those in there. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and dump that in. I'll open this thing up and give you a look inside. So all I did really was I just built a rack out of 2x4s, just framed it, put some legs on it, nothing super fancy or anything like that. And then these totes, so I've got two bins inside of the unit, and these totes I got at Lowe's. I think they were like $8 a piece, and they're really super heavy duty totes. I've never found anything quite as heavy duty as these. And basically all I did was I drilled one hole in the very bottom of the tote just to let the excess moisture drain out. And you can actually slide a pan or another tray or something up under there and catch the compost juice that comes out of it. It's really good to put on your garden or in your plants. All I did was I drilled some ventilation holes around the outside of it to allow it to vent a little bit. And I have to add some water to it every now and then. Basically I just keep a newspaper on the top here, and that helps kind of, when you add water to it to help moisten everything up, it kind of keeps, you don't want it sopping wet, but you want it moist. You want that dirt moist. The worms like it moist. So you put the newspaper on there, and you can pour some water on top, and it'll slowly seep through and not be a big flood of water all at one time, and it helps keep everything moist inside. So we're just going to pull the newspaper back here. You can kind of see some of the stuff in here that we've got, and I'm just going to scrape some of this back so that you can see the worms, and then add this fresh compost. So what you're seeing here is, since the worms are new to the colony or to the stuff, I wanted them to have some material in there that they could kind of get acclimated with. So I used some organic peat moss and just some dirt, a little bit of dirt, and there's some chicken manure in here, and just different things. And then in the very bottom of the barrel, or of the container, I put some there's some worms right there. There's a couple of, there's one, little red wigglers. I put some chicken manure in here, and then in the very bottom I've got some more newspapers. And the newspapers just kind of seal up that hole that's down there on the bottom. This stringy stuff came in some of the garden material, or some of the stuff that when I ordered the bushes, the roots were wrapped in it. And then there's some shredded up paper and cardboard and just a bunch of different things in here. So I'm just going to pull this back, and it actually, if you want to speed up your compost time, you can actually put your bigger stuff, like these potatoes. I just threw them in there. You can throw that stuff in a food processor and liquefy it, and it will compost a lot faster. So we're just going to pull some dirt back and add in those nuts and some greens. There's some celery and stuff in there. I'm just going to get a little bit of water. This rinses out my little compost container and adds a little bit of moisture to the compost that we're putting in there. And then we'll just take some of this dirt and pull back over top of our fresh compost we just put in there. I'm going to dig some of this back, bury that. Big stuff doesn't compost well. It takes a long time to compost. but it's another step. So if you don't want to take another step, then you just put it in whole. So then we'll just, now that we've added our compost in there, you can see, I don't know if you can see it from the angle that you're at, but there's vent holes around the sides, and that just helps to keep some air circulating in there, keep it from being so stagnant. We'll lay our newspaper back down on it. And then put our cover back on. And that's all there is to it. So that's our little backyard compost system. This first bin will be really super good compost, and it'll probably compost quicker because we put so much peat moss and organic material in it to acclimate the worms to the new environment. When we start composting this next side, once this one is full, what we can do is dig back some of the top layers that are in here and then shovel out some of the good compost. Start with a layer of newspaper on the bottom of this one, just like we did with this one, and then take some of that new good worm casting and really fine compost from here that has the worms in it and add it into this one, and that's like our mother. That's what gets this next compost bin started, and then we can start adding our compost material in there. And then this one can continue to work until it's completely processed. And then we can go through and sift out the worms. And by that time we should have more worms in the system because they've repopulated. And then when we take our compost, we sort out most of the worms, add it back into our other compost bin. While some of them can travel with the worm castings and the new compost to the garden beds, and the worms actually act as a worm composter in the garden beds. So it's a cool way to make things work. Cool way to recycle trash basically and use it for good. So anyway guys, that's it for this video. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. Don't forget to check out the suggested videos over here in the corner somewhere. And don't forget to click on the little thing and subscribe to the Heritage Pride Homestead YouTube channel. Till next time, get out there and shoot some guns, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. See you guys later.